Steady Eddy. Believe it or not, but the term Steady Eddy is most known as the nickname of an Australian comedian with cerebral palsy. I wouldn't have known that either because Clint Bowyer has commonly labeled a driver with the phrase because of their consistency. It is a phrase that Clint Bowyer doesn't just throw around for fun, because few in NASCAR were able to match Clint Bowyer's level of consistency in the late 2000s. Whether it was at a restaurant with Nico Cotto avocado-sized portions, or in a hotel room with 3 baddies he rizzed up in the pits, or on the racetrack in his RCR Chevrolet Impala. No matter the situation, you knew Clint Bowyer would always finish. NRF Productions presents Steady Eddy, Clint Bowyer's streak of consistency. So, the venue of the 36th race of Clint Bowyer's career didn't have a KC barbecue joint in sight. However, the Phoenix International Raceway still made the Emporia, Kansas native feel at home. This was the site of his first Cup start and his first career top 5 finish. Now, Clint Bowyer was laps away from his 11th top 10 finish of his rookie season. Well, as Larry McReynolds would commonly say, cautions breed cautions. On a late race restart, Carl Edwards missed a shift and caused a ripple effect. Clint Bowyer plowed into the number 31 like a winter service vehicle into a large pile of snow, except in this case there was no snowplow to safeguard the engine. The front nose of Clint Bowyer's Chevrolet was punctured to where it cut an oil line. NASCAR themselves tried to black flag the 07, but the leaking oil would cause Casey Mears to lose control. As Clint Bowyer limped to pit road, the team's diagnosis was that the 07 was incapable of finishing the race. Clint Bowyer went from earning a solid top 10 finish to driving his car back to the garage to officially DNF out of the race. Little did Clint Bowyer know at the time, but this frustration of not finishing a race would be a feeling that would be numbed for a long time. Clint Bowyer closed out his rookie campaign at Homestead the next week with a 10th place finish, carrying some momentum into the 2007 season with a streak of 1 race without a DNF. However, it wasn't on anyone's radar that Clint Bowyer was on the verge of chasing history. This was a freshman, now sophomore driver in the NASCAR Cup Series. Crashes and mistakes were just expected for a driver as inexperienced as Bowyer, which made it even more important for him to be that steady Eddy and show improvements in his racecraft. If he got better at finishing races and getting good finishes, now Bowyer could enter the conversation as a future winner and chase contender. Well, at the 2007 Daytona 500, he had all 4 wheels off the ground and fire coming out of his engine. NASCAR safety workers needed to put it out! But hey, he still crossed the finish line with an 18th place finish. Clint Bowyer now had consecutive races at the finish to chip away at being a steady Eddy. So, in the 2007 NASCAR Cup Series season, there were many races that could have caused Clint Bowyer and Gil Martin to crumble. Look at Las Vegas. The team strategized their plan for a top 10 after having issues just to lose it all and finish 36th. During the Coca-Cola 600, Clint Bowyer was in the crash that made the Charlotte Motor Speedway look like Jimmy Spencer's junkyard. Bowyer's night sucked, nursing home his uncompetitive Monte Carlo to a 29th place finish, which meant that he now had 13 races without a DNF. Then at Loudon, Clint Bowyer was confident in his car's drivability before, on lap 120, there was a caution for debris. Now, before NASCAR fans can put on the tinfoil cap and say, yep, that was to manufacture entertainment, the television cameras caught smoke rolling out of the 07. Clint Bowyer was unlucky and ran over the debris. Similar to his last DNF at the Phoenix Raceway in 2006, he punctured the oil line. However, the RCR team did a good job repairing the car and he would finish the race, albeit 7 laps down. However, in Clint Bowyer's 2007 summer harvest, this was the one bad apple amidst a batch of shiny red ones. Those long, hot summer days didn't have Clint Bowyer panicking whether or not he was going to make the chase. Being a steady Eddy in the regular season paid dividends for Clint Bowyer when the pay window opened up in Richmond. All that hard labor of finishing races without a DNF were cashed in for a spot in the 2007 chase for the Nextel Cup. So with how the 2007 chase was, you would expect that Clint Bowyer would run into some trouble. This run to the championship was pure chaos. The 2007 chase saw crashes and accidents skyrocket to record levels. Heck, Martinsville and Atlanta even set new track records for cautions in their chase races. For Clint Bowyer, he was that steady Eddy Midwest farm boy trying to go against the evil, super corporate juggernaut known as Hendrick Motorsports. Was he gonna beat them? No, he wasn't gonna annihilate prime Jimmy Johnson and elite Jeff Gordon. What are you talking about? Although he did get a solid consolation prize of his first ever NASCAR Cup Series victory and a third place points finish. It was a hard-fought, resilient effort for Clint Bowyer because in the Midwest, you know things don't come easy. Clint Bowyer had engine troubles in the dawning stages of the season finale at Homestead. Fortunately, when the sun set on 2007, Bowyer was able to finish the final race. As a sophomore Cup Series driver, Clint Bowyer completed every race. This was just the 9th time in NASCAR history that such a mountain had been climbed. Even more impressive was that Clint Bowyer was only the 5th driver to do it in the 36 race era. From an inexperienced rookie in the development stages to reliable, Bowyer was now a top 10 driver in various stat categories. Clint Bowyer was as hot of a sell as the brand new iPhone. He was now in that conversation as a driver that could go out and win races, as well as potentially hoist some shiny new hardware in November. With Clint Bowyer's evolution as a driver, he would double down for 2008 on his efforts to become NASCAR champion. His Cup and nationwide schedules meant that Bowyer would be pushed physically, mentally, and emotionally. Beginning with the 2008 Daytona 500, where he would get spun by teammate Jeff Burton in the closing laps of the race. So with a massive commitment to running 2 schedules, Clint Bowyer's steady Eddy streak was one that was going to be hard to maintain. All it took was one bad race in the Nationwide Series, or a lack of focus that could trickle down into a DNF in the Cup Series. However, Clint Bowyer did a great job in the early part of the season being a full-time Cup driver and a full-time Nationwide driver, earning 7 top 10s in the Cup Series to extend his streak to 47 races, capping his top 10 run off by pretending to be Mr. Where Did He Come From, Kevin Harvick for a night. However, as the spring turned into summer, Clint Bowyer's steady Eddy streak wasn't as steady as he would have liked it. Things like having the right front shock absorber break out of the frame at Dover, making mistakes at demanding tracks like Darlington and Pocono, getting spun at New Hampshire by Sam Hornish Jr., who would lead all of NASCAR in 2008 with 20 incidents in 34 races. Plus, potentially having a tire going down due to contact with an inexperienced Chad McCumbee in the second Pocono race. These were some of the moments that battle-tested this 07 team in a tame 2008 campaign. Outside of course, the Goodyear disaster class known as the 2008 Brickyard 400. Due to the car of tomorrow, on-track incidents in NASCAR would hit their lowest total since 2004. Clint Bowyer took advantage with a crop of mediocre yet serviceable finishes to extend his DNF streak and keep him around the chase bubble, despite the worst driver in NASCAR nearly sending Bowyer into a drunk depression. For the second year in a row, Clint Bowyer qualified to compete in the chase for the Cup. The 2008 edition continued the seasonal trend of less cautions, dropping 33% and recording the least amount of incidents in the chase's 5-year history. This would fit into the wheelhouse of a steady Eddy like Clint Bowyer. Personally, I think Clint Bowyer was more of a Ford guy, shown by 2008 as he was the dark horse for the title, failing to finish outside the top 20 in any of the chase races. With the conclusion of the 2008 Ford 400, Clint Bowyer capped off another statistically impressive season. A testament to the durability of Bowyer, who put up these numbers in the midst of his championship season in the Nationwide Series. Oops, he did it again. Clint Bowyer was DNF proof like this expensive Cybertruck was influencer proof. NASCAR history was completely rewritten by both he and his teammate Kevin Harvick, becoming the first drivers to finish without a DNF in consecutive Cup Series seasons. Now at 73 consecutive races without a DNF, Clint Bowyer was on the cusps of NASCAR history. So, there were a lot of water cooler conversations at RCR prior to the 2009 season. Was it the right move to expand? And hey, is splitting up Clint Bowyer and Gil Martin going to cost us a championship? Because Cheerios didn't want to sponsor Casey Mears, who was sponsored by Kellogg's in 2008, Clint Bowyer would represent aisle number 7 rather than drink number 7. Although, who are we kidding? A guy like Clint Bowyer isn't cutting out Jack Daniels. Rather than just switch the colors and the numbers, RCR gave him an entirely new team led by Shane Wilson. I take it those debates were intense, but not as steamy as the debate about which RCR driver was going to break Herman Bean's record of consecutive races without a DNF. Was it going to be Kevin Harvick or Clint Bowyer? These were two drivers that were probably just as happy with the Daytona 500 getting shortened by rain as race winner Matt Kenseth, leaving a track prone for accidents with top 5 finishes and their DNF-less streaks living to see another race. So was it going to be forever, or was it going to go down in flames? As for Kevin Harvick's DNF-less streak, that would be the latter. As the safety crews extinguished his car and RAF streak at 81, Bowyer put together a quintessential Bowyer start. Although one of the top storylines of the 2009 season was the struggles of RCR, Clint Bowyer came back to Phoenix, the site of his last DNF, and extended his streak to 81 races with a mediocre showing. With back-to-back finishes outside the top 20, momentum was withering away at the worst possible time. In the words of Clint Bowyer's favorite singer, Elvis Presley, "If you're looking for trouble, you came to the right place." That being the Talladega Superspeedway, where 7 laps into the 2009 Aaron's 499, Matt Kenseth comes up, Jeff Gordon comes down, and just like that, it was the big one. Just one look at the battered number 33 car could send shivers down the spine of any member on that team. They would need to repair this monstrosity in 3 hours, or Clint Bowyer's DNF streak would end shy of Herman Beam's record. So as Brad Keselowski turned Carl Edwards into the catch fence, Clint Bowyer came back out, limped around, and did the bare minimum to extend his streak to 82 races. The next week at Richmond, an 18th place finish was cause of concern for RCR as an organization. However, it put Clint Bowyer now at 83 consecutive starts without a DNF. Now, Clint Bowyer was on the cusp of tying Herman Beam's record. Although to do so, Clint Bowyer would need to dance with Darlington. In 3 previous Cup races, Bowyer survived the Lady in Black, but not without a couple scars. Clint Bowyer knew that she would torture and torment him if he slipped up, which on lap 221 of the Southern 500, Steady Eddy would meet his match.
Oh, in that wall back straightaway big. Bowyer.
He cut a tire down when he hit the wall.
All right, we tore it up pretty good, y'all.
Yeah, you tore it up real good.
So I'm sure Hart Carlson probably had a White Sox game to cover. However, if he were commentating this race, his call would have been, and Clint Bowyer's streak without a DNF is over. The car was diagnosed as beyond repair, and Clint Bowyer got his first flashbacks of whenever he climbed out of the car after the 2006 Phoenix Fall race, a whopping 83 races ago. On that May night in Darlington, Clint Bowyer's streak would end 1 shy of tying, 2 shy of breaking Herman Beam's record. While it didn't set a NASCAR record, as of this recording, Clint Bowyer's streak without a DNF is the 3rd longest in NASCAR history. However, what makes this even more impressive is that this was a streak that dated back to his rookie season. Sometimes a driver can race for decades and still put together inconsistent seasons. Clint Bowyer's Steady Eddy streak was like watching the evolution of a driver in front of our eyes. In the late 2000s, you couldn't find a driver more consistent than a young Clint Bowyer. Going from a young buck that was still navigating the ropes of the NASCAR Cup Series to someone that drove like a seasoned veteran. So the next time that you hear Clint Bowyer in the Fox booth call a Christopher Bell or William Byron a Steady Eddy, just remember that he's talking with credibility and experience, especially considering this extremely consistent stretch in the late 2000s where Clint Bowyer failed to record a DNF. So if you enjoyed this video, there's plenty of other Clint Bowyer content here on NRF Productions. Also, I encourage you to check out my second channel, Fuel Cell Full, for modern NASCAR content. Other than that, this is Nathan for Digital Gas House. Life's a beach, and then you drive.